Reno Cerbone, proprietor chef at Heritage. Mayo was eating like antelope tartare at some Tampa restaurant. Have you ever dabbled in any like one of these Anthony Bourdain type of things? Have you ever done any kind of Bourdain type of dishes at any of your restaurants? So where you had something that nobody would ever in their right mind order unless they were on some kind of hallucinogenic drug.
Listen,
they don't tip well.
People, right? You get the people that are hallucinating and just like losing their minds, or you're going to get these very sophisticated people that claim themselves as foodies, and I automatically want to throw them the fuck out. Listen, public service announcement. Stop saying you're a foodie. That just means you're an asshole. That's all that means. That's all that means.
Substitute asshole.
No, you're not. You're just really fucking opinionated. Eat and shut the fuck up and enjoy. Did you like it or not? Fuck.
That's true.
With you 1,000%. Yeah. Mayo used to be insufferable like that. And then he started admitting that he ate a Skyline chili as a matter of choice. Reno, we love you, man. All right, see what you can do on the ticks. We won't press it any further. I mean, if you give us a call out of the blue.
My best to get there even myself, so I'll let you know.
All right, my friend. Always a pleasure. Guys. We'll have to get in there and see you soon.
Cheers. Let's go, baby. Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot.
All right, Reno Cerbone, proprietor chef at Heritage.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Great to be with you here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie. Lubitz on this fine Wednesday. About 15 minutes from now, we'll be joined by the great one himself, Mr. Tony Segreto. Do a little old school with Tony Segreto. That's brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. We're just talking on a program we do. You can find it on Caffeine TV. And people always say, this is the weird thing. No matter how many times you explain where to find stuff to people, no matter how sophisticated they are and technically advanced they are, they can never fucking find it, Louie.
Nothing we do is that hard to find. We've now done enough content that all you have to do is put in either of our names and all of the
stuff. Like you type the first letter in, and all of a sudden, if the porn site doesn't come up, then
exactly.
here's a morning briefing, Caffeine TV. So I tell people all the time, just say into your Google bar or whatever that is, just use the voice mechanism and say Caffeine TV. Morning briefing, and 20 episodes pop up from all the way back to last year when we started this thing, including usually the most recent. I think they're about a day behind in posting it on the, on that.
It's a day to get it to there.
It takes like a day to really get rolling on that. But nonetheless, I mean, we do this before we get going with this show. We were running a little late, ran a little overtime because we also now feature as part of that program. We're going to try to build this up to have somebody of distinction every day, one of our handicapping brethren out there who we have respect for, to do a little portion of the show called The Daily Degenerate with an eye on, and this is part of the old grandiose plan of to have something of substance ready and on multiple platforms, Louie, by the beginning of the football season, where we can combine all of these guys together and resource everybody that we know that we have any respect for their ability to select games and at least win at a percentage where you can cope with whatever it is that you're putting up. Now, that's not the case for this guy named Mercano, who just got suspended for life by Major League Baseball. He joins Pete Rose in that category, and then a bunch of guys from the 1920s. were involved in these kind of suspensions going back to 1921 and the Black Sox scandal, of course. This guy Mercano now was suspended for life out of the game. He was with the San Diego Padres. He wasn't playing because he had a torn ACL. So he's making at least the league minimum. It's like $700,000.
Probably more than that. I mean, it's rare to find someone that actually makes the minimum.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, who was the catcher that was with the Yankees who couldn't catch a ball?
He sucked and was making millions. I mean,
was it Sanchez? Was that his name?
Gary Sanchez.
Gary Sanchez,
and he, by the end of it,
couldn't hit
or catch and was still making millions, plural.
I think he just signed with somebody this year for like $4 or $5 million.
He had a decent game the other day. I remember seeing his name.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
But anyway, so these guys are making money. You asked this question, Lubie, and just to kind of summarize, where we're at with this thing. And I was talking about this earlier this morning, and I'll never forget it because the young, impressionable DeForest. I thought I was younger when this took place, but doing a little research on it, it goes back to like 1966. So I would have been 14 or 15 years old. My dad had worked on a book with this guy named Jim G. Lucas, who was a very, very well-renowned and decorated war correspondent, decorated in the sense of winning journalistic distinctions, including a Pulitzer Prize for his coverage of the Korean War. He had written a book about his coverage of the Vietnam War called Dateline Vietnam. And my dad worked on the book with him, and very gracious, distinguished gentleman. And he wanted to do something nice for my father. He said, well, I know your son loves baseball, which I did. It was my number one sport at the time. And I was infatuated with all aspects of it. So he takes me to some Washington Senators games because he had connections there. He was able to get into the press box. Maybe, Lubie, I don't know. You think subliminally this left such an a deep impression, which maybe is a little bit repetitive and redundant there, but that kind of triggered my desire. I guess I always wanted to be like a baseball announcer or something along those lines, if I couldn't be a professional player, which was a little far fetched. Although I was pretty good at stickball and punchball back as a kid. Anyway, what I'll never forget about that trip was, in addition to meeting Frank Howard and saying that guy is the strongest motherfucker that I've ever seen in my life, and huge. Talk about larger than life. What was the little sign on the locker room wall? Which would you really need this, Lubie? Like, if anywhere it would have been appropriate, it would be in any broadcaster's booth where they have the sign like betting is strictly, gambling is strictly prohibited.
I guess they needed it.
Why would they need a sign outside the clubhouse, though? I mean, was that all just a reaction to the 1921
Black Sox, yeah,
scandals?
Sure.
Okay, so yeah, apparently, I guess I would imagine they still have these signs, although it seemed kind of corny, didn't it?
Yep.
That you would have to remind these guys that are making like $40 million a year, hey, don't bet on these games, you assholes. But here we are. You're in bed with the devil, so to speak. They're making zillions of dollars off of all of these partnerships that they have with various wagering outlets and platforms. And you would have to think now. You said something about this, like, well, geez, you don't need the money, but I believe this relates maybe to just being competitive.
No, for sure. That's exactly what it is. I mean, Michael Jordan wasn't doing it, and Charles Barkley weren't gambling to make money.
If anything, they probably were losing fortunes.
They lost way more than they were making. Jordan notoriously is not as good a golfer as he thinks he is. So guys would literally seek out Michael Jordan.
Sure.
Not only want to put money on it, but he want to put shitloads of money on it. And he wasn't that great.
That guy Chico Escuela, or whatever his name was, not the baseball player,
playing Michael Jordan because he was so competitive. It would actually get in the way of the golf. This isn't basketball. Like losing your mind on a golf course. You can be Tiger Woods. You're gonna play the worst golf of your fucking life. Like you have to be fucking calm, cool, collected. Jordan used his passion to motivate him in basketball, and I think it got in his way in golf. Like people literally would wait in line to play fucking Michael Jordan because he was so average at golf, but loved competing so hard that they would fucking rake it in. Like I don't know. Look, but those guys can afford it. They can afford to do it. It was a lot of out of their career or after their career when they were doing it or away from the game and they got away with it. Like in this day and age with social media and receipts, as people say, like when you're making nearly $1 million or more, to me, it's just crazy. Annie and I talked about this like the last couple of years where I didn't think in any way in hell you'd get a pro caught on any of this. Cause it's like, why would you like take money to throw a game? But I didn't think about them willingly gambling. Like I didn't think about none of them are throwing games. Like
there's no implication. There was in the Jonte Porter.
No, it's where
I don't know that he was throwing games so much, but clearly was tanking
on
these over-under props.
Look, it's the same thing. This guy wasn't telling him to throw games, telling Ohtani to throw games. He was a fucking addict. Like that's just crazy to me that these players playing be addicted to your sport. Like, that's not enough competition? You play 162 fucking games. I get it. He's hurt now, but I'm sure it wasn't only when he was hurt. This guy was doing it. Like I didn't fathom at all that this would and it's prevalent across sports. There's no way it's not happening in hockey. It's happened. We know it's happening in the NBA. We know it's happening in the NFL. Calvin Ridley, and it was a stupid ass bet, but still. And there's tons of guys that have popped up. College athletics, it's everywhere. Like I did not.
Hey, even the baseball coach at Alabama was sending out information,
throwing games.
I mean, literally throwing games.
Like I was naive. I didn't realize. Look, I've been doing stuff with you for years, so I know gambling's big. When I was in college, my friends, before the apps were there, were gambling. Like, I knew it exists. I just didn't realize that, like, you could be making millions and still want to fucking put a wager on a game just because.
Even more reason, right? Because you're not as concerned about losing the money.
I guess it's just weird to me.
It's not like me betting 100,000 on something where I'm going to have to sell my house to pay off the the wager if I lose. No, very interesting though, and I also I constantly come back to this where and I still is left with the impression from this interview from this had to be over 50 years ago, probably right around 50 years ago, when I was interviewing Harry Dalton, who at the time was the California Angels GM. He was a very well-respected general manager in the league and a very thoughtful guy. He had been with the Baltimore Orioles, where he kind of staked his claim to fame. Did a great job with the Angels. They were always trying. Gene Autry, the singing cowboy, was putting up saddlebags full of cash, as they put it, to sign early free agents, including Rod Carew, Lyman Bostock. What was another one? I don't know. They might have acquired Carew in a trade, but nonetheless, very active in the early stages of free agency. When imagine this, Lubie, a guy would get like a 3-year contract for $400,000.
Yeah.
And everybody's, whoa, are you kidding me? For Dave Goltz? I mean, it was amazing back then. Yeah, Lyman Bostock, I think he got $400,000 a year, and people were flipping out. He unfortunately died in a car accident very much early in his tenure with the Angels. But Dalton was a very sophisticated mind, and I'll never forget him sort of leaning across the desk, Lubie, and telling me, which, who was I? I was there with like a little Mr. Microphone recording this interview, and didn't have a job, no affiliation. Who you with? Well, I'm kind of freelancing. I was just trying to get some kind of writing samples together so I could apply for some jobs. And yet this struck me, and I don't remember much or retain much from interviews I've done, but I remember him leaning across the table and saying, the one thing that we have to protect is the integrity of the game. People have to believe that the game is on the level. And now what? I mean, Louis, what are we looking at here in professional sports?
It's not good. It's not.
When the commissioners are sitting, with these guys that are executives who you never would have known, some guy from Sweden who founded like DraftKings or whatever.
It's the only thing you have to have is people believing it's on the look. Wrestling is still popular. It's not like people don't watch wrestling, but it's very different than the professional sports or even the college athletics. When you're going to put that much money into something, people want to think, especially now that gambling is a thing, right? You need it even more on the level for gambling. Like people don't want to put money on a game that they think is tainted, that they think someone has. That's why people get hammered whenever that stuff gets found out, because it could ruin the whole fucking industry. It's scary. I really did not think it would be an issue at all. And it's actually a major issue, and so far it's only been lower level people, but what's to say someone bigger won't mess around with it again? Like Andy's saying, if you are addicted to and that's the problem, is a lot of people are starting now. Like when we were in college, I know, and then before that, when I was younger, people did the rotisserie crap, but like you weren't gambling really in middle school or elementary school. They are now. Like my nephews, my buddy's kid, doesn't work. The way he makes money is literally doing the fantasy shit every day. Like that's how he calls it his job, and I guess he does pretty decent. He's in high school. Like, so what's happening is, and these kids play.
I respect that, Louis. I'm glad it's
I know you do.
Yes,
but if he's doing it, and all his friends were on football, and he's friends with a lot of kids that are on the FSU team now. Like, if he was doing it, you're telling me they weren't doing it. So they're grown up doing it. You then get into college. You can make your own money, but you're so used to doing this, it's just secondhand nature. You go to the pros, and so that's why it's like ingrained in them now. So I don't know. It actually scares the living shit out of me. Like, this is the kind of thing. This is the thing that topples sports. It's not a fight or something off the court. It's this. It's the game itself being questioned, and if people are putting tons of money in. Even if they don't need to throw stuff, if you have $100,000 on a game and it just means one more or one less rebound, like that's not a win or a loss, right? Why wouldn't you'd be stupid not to do it? So it's like, okay, then that right there, that alone changed the whole game, the whole basis of the game. So
that was usually a theory that was the underlying theme in any kind of point shaving scandal, where the guy said, well, yeah, I didn't have to lose the game. I just had to make sure we didn't win by 11.
Yep.
But no, this is here's 2 pages of my New York Post, all dedicated to gambling scandals that are taking place as we speak. And they got a great picture here of Rob Manfred Mann as he looks to be extremely concerned. I don't know if you guys can make that out there. It's probably not the greatest show and
You
tell.
can see the face. You can
But
see it.
yeah, so on coinciding pages here, almost a double truck as the centerfold. You have Zuckerberg, infielder banned for life, as MLB has 4 others hit with suspension. So 4 other guys were suspended for the remainder of the year. I guess their offenses were less egregious. Maybe they weren't betting on their own team. This guy Mercano, who was out with a torn ACL this year. He's with the Padres, and last year, while he was a member of the Pittsburgh Pirates, he also was on the injured list for a good portion of the season. And this guy, wouldn't you want to book his action? My God. In total, he placed, and this is the other thing. I mean, they're tracking this stuff. You would think if you were going to do this and you knew it was going to get you possibly thrown out of your profession, which I don't know what this guy has to lean on, where he can make $700,000 to several $1 million a year. In total, he placed 387 bets, and that was spanning 22 through 23. 231 of them were Major League Baseball related. The league had found out. He wagered 150,000 in total, with over 87,000 on MLB related bets, most of them parlays. And I think we're better than this guy, Lubie. He won at a 4.3% clip.
I mean, that's bad.
He won 4 out of 100 bets, this guy.
Yeah, don't you just stop? Like, when do you
stop? At what point do you say, hey, not only am I jeopardy? I mean, I don't know. Do they not understand that this was one of the rules and one of the guidelines now that Major League Baseball was not going to be able to be gentle about?
Everyone knows. You don't gamble. Like, you can, but if you get popped, you're done.
Signs right on the wall there. I mean, every clubhouse you walk into, and I believe it still is there. Because it was, I mean, I haven't been going to baseball locker rooms for a while now, but I would say, maybe 10 years the last time I was in a baseball locker room?
I've been around a locker room. I don't remember seeing it. I was there with the All-Star game.
When sign was always there, right by the door.
I don't remember it being here in Miami, but I wouldn't doubt that they have something somewhere saying it. Again, you don't need it. Everyone knows. Pete Rose is one of the greatest players ever. He is the hit.
He walked by it every day and said, I got the under today.
But I'm saying, and they hammered him forever. Like, if they can hammer him forever, then...
Don't you think, though, that he had a wink-wink with Bart Giamatti?
Yeah.
Do you believe that, Lubie? I mean, that's been a theory of mine forever.
He went away too easily.
Not alone,
That was well known, and then Vincent was...
But, I think that they said, hey, listen, Pete, just accept this because it has to look good. But come back in a year, maybe 2, and you'll be reinstated. Don't worry about a thing. And then, unfortunately for him, Bart Giamatti checks out right after that. And they bring in Fay Vincent, who was much more of a hardliner and hadn't made the agreement with Pete Rose. I don't know. Did Pete address this in his book at all? I didn't actually read Pete Rose's book, but where he admitted that he bet on baseball. Did he say that he had an agreement with Giamatti at any time?
Yes, he always talks about that. That's something that he talks about all the time.
I would think so, yeah. Because, I mean, he accepted that lifetime ban too easily.
Yeah, well, that was the idea. Is it wasn't a lifetime ban. It was like, let everything calm down, and then we'll embrace you back into the game. And then he passed. And Vincent was trying to crack down. And look, again.
Oh, Vincent I think he genuinely didn't like Pete Rose.
He hated Pete Rose. Yeah. But that's the thing. Look, that's the problem. Is it's with it's why I thought the Donaghy thing would have been such a bigger deal. And it's sort of like, just went away, even though nothing got solved from it, and all he did was muddy the waters. But that's the one thing you can't have is people questioning if the game's on the level. Like, that's the lone thing that you cannot have. Yeah. You can have. We've seen players fight fans, and the sport still go on. Like, you can have it all. We've seen weird indiscretions, but.
Bring guns into the locker room doesn't make any difference.
Guns, the owner being a fucking racist when 80% or 90% of his team is black.
Owners are in another category of consideration in terms of character.
Shit. We got an owner be forced to sell. I mean, it's hard to be forced when you make $2 billion, but he was still forced to sell. Like, we've seen a lot of stuff around sports, and the Carolina Panthers owner is a massive racist. Like, we've seen all these things. And it's okay. The sports can keep going on. NIL, all that, the paying for play, all that stuff. This is the one thing you can't have. Like, you can't have an outbreak of players gambling, because then it's like, okay, were any of the games real? Like, I don't know what to do with any of those games.
Yeah, I mean, the worst so far is this Jonte Porter thing, and that really came about and arose because of the fact that you can bet on any form of minutia. related to a game, right? I mean, if this guy wasn't playing, he was taking himself out of games. Clearly, I don't know. Is he an influential enough player to make you think, well, if he wasn't playing, his team had less likelihood of winning? Probably not. I didn't know much about Jonte Porter except that he was the brother of Michael Porter Jr. That was his lone distinction. I would come back. I do a little old school. We'll see what Tony Segreto. I mean, talk about a veteran guy covering all of this stuff forever. We'll see what Tony Segreto thinks about all of this and the other things that are happening on the happier side. Of course, you have the Florida Panthers in the Stanley Cup Final, so we have a local team there. And tomorrow, finally, they tip off the NBA championship round. Dallas Mavericks against the Boston Celtics. Lubie and I are on the Mavericks, and wow, are we somewhat alone in this opinion, Lubie? It seems like an overwhelming amount of the public sentiment, both through the media and fans and anybody that's looking at this thing, have they not already conceded the Larry O'Brien to the Celtics?
Yes.
Are we way off base on this, Lubie? Probably. We've been
We'll
wrong
see
about
tomorrow.
most of the NBA. Yeah.
Well, I've been way off on most of the playoffs, but
Me too.
I mean, it's fine.
To the level of disgrace, I think, Lubie.
Look, the Celtics got through 12 or 14-2 is that what it is? 12? No, you need 16, right? So 12-2 they got through.
They're 12-2 so far. Yeah, they dumped
That's
those two
people
games
are
improbable fashion. Yeah.
Talking about, so we'll see. I don't know.
I think the Mavericks were more impressive in mowing down the teams that they beat out of the West. But we'll find out. All right, we're going to come back with Tony Segreto. Go old school in just a moment. That's brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants here on the Defo Show. That is Mike Lubie Lubitz. I'm Jeff DeForest, and we will be back with more in a moment. Now that. Want to bet on what time it is? It's 8:36.
Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
What we gonna do right here is go back, way back into time.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto, brought to you by Texas Roadhouse.
Welcome back to the show. Jeff DeForest, we got Mike Lubie Lubitz. And you're laughing hysterically, Tony. What's up, my friend? Did we say something funny?
You always do.
Oh, really? Okay.
Hello, Lubie. How are you?
Hello, Mr. Tony Segreto. Good morning.
Doing all right, man. How you feeling, Tony? You look good. You still in town?
Feel good. Yes, I'm in town until next Thursday.
Oh, okay, great. I mean,
Thursday,
lucky you. Yeah.
Go to Atlanta, where I'm going to meet. We're going to meet my son's girlfriend's parents.
Nice.
Oh, wow. Has he met them? You
Yes.
meant we. I mean, was he
Yes.
bringing representation?
No.
Now, is he getting married to this girl, or is that
Yeah.
in the offing?
Oh,
Oh, he is.
Now,
He's not engaged as of yet, but supposedly
Let's
the
put
closure
this-
expired.
let's put
It's a
this-
premature evaluation, you think? What?
Let's put it this way. Me, my wife, my daughter are going to meet the parents.
Okay.
That's big.
And this group of young people, this millennial group, they plan, they moved in together, they're saving their money,
Oh, wow.
and they plan. So they got a plan in place, and God bless them.
No
but-
shotgun wedding coming up in the Segreto family then.
No,
You're actually
no
meeting the
shotgun
parents in
wedding.
advance. Very nice. All right, where's this taking place, Tom?
Meet the Parents outside of Atlanta.
Okay.
I don't know.
Buckhead, is that it? Buckhead? That's a nice area, right?
No.
really nice,
This is in the mountains, I think. And
He's married a hillbilly?
No.
Well, this is just a meeting place.
Going
They're
away.
not from there.
They're
Okay.
gonna go out. They're gonna.
let's go. Move on.
All right. I mean, what do you make of all of this, Tony? What's been your experience with it? I still, like I said, I've told the story many times because it left such a strong impression with me. And I was a giant baseball fan at the time, not New York Giants or San Francisco, but and this gentleman that worked with my father, who was a very distinguished journalist. I mean, one of the top Pulitzer Prize winner. Offered to take me to see a couple of Washington Senator games in Washington, D.C., and he had access, because he was so well respected by everybody in the journalism field, had access to the press box and the clubhouse, the locker room, field. And I couldn't believe it. I was overwhelmed. I mean, it was just absolutely fantastic for me. But I'll never forget, I was struck with great curiosity by the fact that they had a sign outside the locker room saying that betting on baseball or gambling is strictly prohibited. I don't even know the exact wording of the sign, but apparently, and I'm thinking it's probably still there today, maybe with a lot more impact and meaning. But it surprised me that sign was outside of virtually every baseball locker room, and yet here we are. Now we know that there was going to be some of this, that there was no way to avoid the entire collection of professional athletes ever making a wager with the availability of it. The different pro leagues all have different approaches to it. Some restrict it altogether. You're not allowed to do any kind of sports wagering. Others have stipulations that just like the NFL, don't bet on the NFL and don't bet from the facility or any NFL facility, whether you're in the training room or whatever. Just don't be sending it in there on Bet Online or one of these online sources or platforms. The NBA has different rules. I think it's okay to bet on other sports, but and I'm not sure. I think Major League Baseball is the same, although the Ohtani thing sprang up because these bets were being placed with an illegal bookmaker who was being investigated. But what do you think? I mean, how pressing of an issue is this now with this guy from the Padres being suspended for life, and in conjunction with that, simultaneously with that, 4 other major leaguers were also suspended for the rest of the year for betting on sports.
How stupid can you be? Is what I think. These guys are making $4 or $5 million, the minimum they can $4 or $5 million a year. What are they going to make on a bet? $100,000, $200,000?
This guy had bet like $150,000 on numerous bets, like 100 bets. So it wasn't like he was betting a fortune.
No, that's the thing is
that's the thing. Why you risking your career and millions for that? That makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
but it does to me in this sense that gamblers are competitive. It's a form of competition. Look. One of the reasons many years ago, the Polyman had this theory that wagering was going to be, and that even things like trivia contests were going to be so participated in, was that people want to compete. Okay, so maybe you played baseball at a high level, but you can't do it anymore, but you still want to compete. So you go ahead and this becomes the gambling becomes your form of being involved in a competition.
That makes no sense. There's legal gambling now. You can gamble legally, but as far as competing, if you're competing already playing, then what do you need to compete? But
I mean, it's your competitive nature. In other words, you always want to win, whatever it is that you're doing, and you get a thrill out. Let's face it.
That makes no sense.
When you win a bet, don't you feel almost like you were in the game?
No.
All right.
I feel like I want to bet.
Right, but I mean, there's something about it. I mean, you're following it. I've told this to Lubie for years, and I think he finds it to be 1,000% true, an empirical truth, that you put $5 on a ball game, and all of a sudden, every tendency that you have becomes exaggerated, even to the point where you're expressing racial epithets at some guy that you're watching on TV playing a game.
That's foreign to me. That's foreign to me.
You're too nice of a guy, Tony. That's the problem.
No, I'm not cynical or anything. it is foreign to me.
You don't think that the competitive nature of athletes is one of the driving forces behind these guys doing something that, as you say, I mean, and I agree with you, it seems completely stupid. It's illogical.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is that they're not sitting down with their accountant going, this year they want to throw away 150 grand on game. Like it's not in their financial plan.
Or I need 150,000. Or
they're not doing it for that either. I mean,
sure. Barkley doesn't need the money, but he was still stuck 800 grand.
What Mayo, Brian, Andy, look, it is a disease and it is an addiction.
It's a disease and addiction. Exactly right.
So it's crazy. Then that's scary to me that they even let themselves begin it. You have to start it somewhere. And it's like, I don't know my thoughts are, how do they grab a hold of it? I know the idea is punitive penalties, kick them out forever. Okay, that's fine for the guys that you get, but it feels like, I don't know. You already saw that with Pete Rose, and it didn't stop these people. Like, I don't know. It actually scares the crap out of me that this is probably very much like steroids, where it's a lot more prevalent than anyone realizes. And I don't know how you tamp it down. I don't know what you do, because if it is an addiction, okay, so then should we treat it differently? Like have counselors and group there? Like, I don't know. Like, what the fuck do you do? Because this can literally topple sports. Like, it's the kind of thing that can end people being into the game. Like, if I put it this way, there are people that watch wrestling. I started watching wrestling at 10 because even though my dad to this day still likes it, I realized it was fake. So I didn't want to watch it anymore. I would rather watch a movie knowing it's fake than wrestling. The reason I watch sports is because we don't know. Yeah, everyone thinks the Celtics are going to win, but it's not a done deal. Like, so that's my thing is, how do they silence it? How do they get rid of it? And I don't know what the answer is to that.
Well, you got to treat it as an addiction, first of all. And then there's got to be a meeting of the minds. There's got to be a universal thought process here that goes, the commissioner of baseball, the commissioner of the NFL, the commissioner of the NBA should get together and say, listen, we got a problem here. Let's figure it out.
But they're promoting it. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, I know.
During the course of every broadcast, and it's inevitable that at some point, the main announcer, no matter how opposed he's been to gambling, his entire career, says, hey, look at this. They're down 6 runs. Now would be the time to jump on the Rangers.
Yeah. It's Bet ESPN. There's Twin Spires. There's all these platforms that you can do it legally. To do it illegally makes no sense.
But these guys aren't betting illegally. I mean, they're just doing it in defiance of the parameters and the guidelines that are being laid out by the leagues. I mean, they're obviously betting with a place where these bets can be tracked.
They're not getting arrested.
I think there should be a rule. It's so simple. You just don't bet on your sport. Plain and simple. Baseball players don't bet baseball.
But there is that rule, and they're still doing it. I mean, this is more of an eye opener than I would care to consider, because it's not just this obscure shortstop or whatever. You had 4 other guys snared at the same time. To a lesser degree, I guess they weren't betting on their own team, which seems to be the big, forbidden, fruit. But nonetheless, whether you're betting on your own team to win or lose, it just, how do you administrate this and litigate it and mediate it out of the game? I don't know that they're going to be able to, because it must be happening, as Lubie said, in proportions that we can't even imagine right now if they're catching this many people doing it.
I know. They've got to... I don't know.
That's my problem with this.
You've got to figure out a way to do it, and I don't know how to. I don't know what that is right now.
I don't know how you get it out of the game, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as gambling is more and more legal, more and more ever present in society. It's the stigma to gambling has gone down by leaps and bounds. I mean, my wife, who wouldn't think about gambling at all, if I made a bet, she's not mad at me. And years ago, I'm sure a wife like that would.
I sit together and we make bets.
Exactly.
Yeah, but your wife is more of a degenerate than you are.
But
that's
no. I mean this in the
he's not losing
most
the home
flattering of terms.
It's just, I don't know. Look, yes, that's what they're doing. Is if you get popped one time, they're getting rid of you. So you're hoping that scares people away. We'll see. I hope it does because we love our sports.
Listen,
I don't know.
To your point, Oklahoma plays Texas. Okay, it's softball.
Yeah,
I've been watching that day in and day out, and they talk about who's favored by what
in women's softball. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
It's like all this steam now on the WNBA. Nobody gave a shit about the WNBA before. Now people are betting the games and analyzing lines.
It is the top headline every day. Every day. They ejected a woman yesterday for, I don't know, saying something to the official.
Oh, Angel Reese, yeah.
Yeah. They just...
Don't you want to pull her eyelashes off sometimes? This Angel Reese bothers me for some reason. I know it seems racist or whatever to be against a black woman, but a little bit obnoxious there. I've become a protector of Caitlin Clark at this stage. I'm not a fan of the cheap shot. I really am not. I understand these initiations and
she is.
But Michael Jordan, though, got the shit beat out of him. I was watching a little bit of The Last Dance the other day when they had to fill some airtime because they didn't have a playoff game.
And the Celtics
they were supposed to broadcast like Game 6 or something of the Pacers Celtics. So they threw that up there. And when you see the clips of the early career of Michael Jordan, they knocked the living daylights out of this guy. And nobody said anything. The Jordan rules weren't in effect then. That's for sure.
Well, if you look at it, look at it honestly. They can bitch all they want about Caitlin Clark. Every woman can why is she in the league? What is she doing? Is she worth it? On and on and on and on and on. But you have to admit, if it wasn't for Caitlin Clark, we wouldn't even be talking about it.
Watching.
Well, I think people are aware of that. That's part of the resentment, I think, that's coming out. But what is it? Kennedy Carter. I mean, that was just that was insane to see a woman like that get cross-checked just because she happens to be the most popular and wealthiest person in the league. And we saw this with Tiger Woods, right? The people, on the PGA. What do they want this black kid to come in there and dominate? Of course not. He wasn't even allowed to play half of the courses that they held tournaments at, except for the fact that he was Tiger Woods. I mean, holy Leander, what were we looking at? And yet, after a while, even Phil realized that just drafting in and getting the sloppy seconds in terms of endorsements off Tiger Woods and maybe other things, although I don't know that you want sloppy seconds off that Perkins waitress, but nonetheless, Phil drafted in behind Tiger to the tune of making like $60 million a year in endorsements, where that was never available to him before. So they realized that, hey, this guy is the golden goose. It remains to be seen. I mean, Caitlin Clark is certainly that in terms of monetary incentives with the league.
And just seriously, she is handling it as well as you can handle it, because at some point
she hasn't punched anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
At some point, she's going to snap.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, she's controlling herself really, really, really well. She's not saying anything. She's saying the right things when talked to, and handling it like a pro. But man, oh man. That's too bad.
What if we find out she was betting against the Fever in some of these games? Is that where we're headed, Tony?
That's up for grabs.
Well, when do people tune out, though? I mean, if this continues to evolve, and you start to believe, as Lubie was saying, that the games are not on the level, which was the biggest fear. I had mentioned this earlier. This stuck with me. I don't know. I'm sure you have a few occasions where you were doing an interview and a guy said something to you, and it stayed with you forever. And I was talking about Harry Dalton telling me that the big thing with baseball, this was in 1975 probably, he said that people have to believe that the game is being conducted and it's on the level. So if this continues to perpetuate itself and evolve like it has, at what point do people tune out? I mean, are we just going to watch it no matter what? Or is this a legitimate threat, as Lubie's been saying, to the future of sports overall, that they partnered up with the devil?
I think you have to close your eyes and say, hope to God that it's not, and go on.
All right.
There's no other way to do it.
I'll still be betting. I mean, look, we used to bet on Carmine Abatello, as Andy pointed out, at Yonkers, even though we knew he was fixing superfecta races.
Andy's like, people still bet. I was like, did they? I haven't heard about harness racing mattering since 1968. Like, there's a reason harness racing went by the wayside. Like horse racing still exists, and we know there's stuff with horse racing, but it's considered on the level. As gambling entrenched as horse racing is, it's considered on the level, and it still goes on. They keep wanting to pronounce it dead. Gulfstream's doing as well as ever.
Yes,
horse racing tracks are doing well, thank God, and we love it. Around the nation, like
not everywhere though, Lubie. I mean, if you look, they're talking about possibly the future of Santa Anita being in a very bleak.
Look, it's not what it was, but I'm saying it still exists. It's still here. They're finding ways to reinvent themselves. Harness racing isn't. Like harness racing
that's
is
pretty much finished.
Gone. I'm sure the idea that it became a known joke of the fixing had a lot to do with that. Like, if sports are known to be fixed, eventually they go away. And that's the scary part of this whole freaking thing.
Unless you're betting my man, David Zuckerman, driving at Plain Ridge, where he's among the leading percentage drivers, even though he only has 3 horses. I got a call from a friend of mine yesterday saying to send it in on Zuckerman. That's the kind of financial advice I get.
Exactly.
He's 3 to 5 at a track where there are 6 people betting.
Did you bet it?
No, of course not. Zuckster let us down as usual. There's no doubt about it. I mean, it's an interesting thing. I was sort of surprised to see this story pop up and the level at which this is existing now that they've discovered. I mean, they have this guy's entire betting history outlined. So, kind of weird.
What would Sonny Hirsch say today?
Sonny was the best, man. He had a bet on everything. It was incredible. He would show me his little sheet. I'm sure he did this with you, and he had like 30 games that he was tracking. Remember that was when Scorephone came out when I was working with Sonny, and Sonny would be sitting there doing, okay, there's a fly ball in the right field. It looks like the Canes are going to be getting out of this inning with not too much damage done, and the White Sox are leading 3-2. Look at that. Sonny, what does that have to do with this fucking broadcast? Nothing, except that he was checking all of his wagers.
God bless him.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be loving these times. That's for sure. Can you imagine? Endorsement dollars alone would be overwhelming.
Absolutely loving him. How old would he be?
Sonny, I don't know.
85.
The scary thing is, there was a time where WIOD was doing some direct mail marketing.
Yeah.
And they decided to put out this little pamphlet periodically. I think it was like quarterly. And they had like things about the station, and they would mail it to everybody. And so I guess they had run out of people to talk about. So they had a picture on the cover of the sports department, which can you imagine this? This was an AM radio station, and we had 6 guys, all of whom had like significant careers going in radio and even in other areas on the cover. It was Rick Weaver, Hank Goldberg, the Mad Dog, Sonny Hirsch, Joe Zagacki, and me. And there's only 2 of us left. That's the weird thing about it, right? And this was a thing that was taken in the 80s, so kind of crazy. But, Sonny would be loving life right now. No doubt about it. All right, what do you think, Tony? I know where your heart is. Most people have just completely discounted the Edmonton Oilers, at least the people that I've talked to.
I have,
and around town.
It's going to be a tough series. It's strength against strength. Edmonton is the best in power plays. The Panthers are best in stopping power plays. It's the Oilers like to score and then sit on it. I think it's going to be 7 games or 6 games at least. And I like the Panthers, of course, but there's something tells me the Edmonton Oilers are just going to, sneak in. So I'm watching with cautious optimism, but I'm still going with Panthers.
Yeah, I don't know why. I feel pretty strongly that the Panthers will win this series. Almost everybody has the same circumstance. Panthers in 6.
I just think there's too much strength against strength. You got to find a breaking point. And I like the Panthers, like I said, but I think the Oilers are going to be tough to beat. I think they're going to be. I don't think it's going to be a walkover. I don't think it's going to be 4 straight.
The Stanley Cup Finals. I think it should be tough. I think by all accounts, the Panthers are the better team. But again, hockey's not.
It's a weird game.
It's just
it's the slip of the puck. It's
just most of the goals are by pure fucking luck. And so if they get 2 lucky goals, and The Panthers struggled to get it through. Look, the saving grace to me is that this will be the worst goalie by every account the Panthers will be facing by a lot. It's not even by a little. Like, they faced probably the 3 best goalies in all of the fucking sport. They have the other one on their team.
Yep. Yeah.
So, and I've heard no mention of their goalie. So that tells you a lot of what Edmonton's bringing. That to me is that I'm hoping that will.
What's this guy's name? Skinner? Is that?
I don't even know who the goalie is. I've never heard the name.
I don't even know.
He actually in the last few games, I remember they rallied back from being down 2-1 against Dallas, and in those last 3 games that Edmonton won, he was very good. He made a very good account of himself.
I'm sure he doesn't suck. It's just the Panthers have not. Now it's been lucky. At the time, it was scary to see what they were facing, but to get through what they got through, it's like, okay, if they can keep bringing that intensity. You would think more than 1 or 2 are going to get by this guy when you saw what Shesterkin was like. But that's the thing is, can they do that? You're hoping that they bring that same intensity, and I think they'll be fine. I'm curious to see if they do. I hope because they seem primed. Like, they're not settling in. Like, last year, it felt like they really were just happy to be there, and the injuries really got in the way. This year, they are all business. They barely they celebrated in the point that you have to celebrate, but they did not go above and beyond. I didn't see any video of them popping champagne. They weren't touching a trophy. Like, they are very reserved. Like, they are not underestimating Edmonton. They now have been there before. So to me, I think that's a lot of what would make me nervous that we're not seeing. We'll see.
They're on a mission. There's a difference when you're there a second time in a row.
Yep.
That you lost the first time. There's a difference in how you approach it, and I like that.
That's my thing.
Well, I think too they're in much better condition. I mean, I don't know that that's even arguable because all of their guys are playing, and I saw some of the post-game interviews that was alluded to many times by the players themselves. Ekblad and Kachuk. Ekblad had a broken foot last year when he was playing in the finals against Vegas. Kachuk had
broken collarbone
spleen that was cut in half. They were pulling body parts out of these guys. It was incredible. So I mean, they definitely find themselves in better shape, and I think they've become even better at this Paul Maurice sort of suffocating forechecking style that everybody's been talking about, and where we used to have it at center ice in the Roger Nielsen appearance in the Stanley Cup Finals. They're now putting that kind of pressure on in the opponent's offensive end or defensive end, their offensive end, and seems to be working. I mean, they did shut down a pretty potent scoring line from the Rangers and made them into a non-entity during that series, and that was throughout the series. They never got it going. So can they stop McDavid and Draisaitl? And I guess Hyman is the other guy on that line.
It's strength against strength.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
We'll see.
I like the Celtics, in 6 or 7, and we'll see what happens there. And
I hope the Celtics lose. I really do.
Yeah,
I mean, I couldn't be rooting any more than I will be for the Dallas Mavericks in this series. I despise the general public assumption out there that the Celtics will win this.
I'm with you, Defo.
They may do it. I don't know, but I mean, it's overwhelming, isn't it?
All the way. But I still think they'll win it.
Yeah, people say that.
Everybody says this. Yeah.
I don't like the Mavs. I not even as a fan. Just I picked against them every series, and it's like, okay, at some point you have to look back at what they've done, who they've faced, and how they played. And it's not just Luka and Kyrie. Like PJ Washington has grown leaps and bounds. The kid Dort is solid. Like they play actually pretty good defense. They're not just running and scoring. Like the Timberwolves were on a goddamn free for all, and Anthony Edwards hadn't looked like that all year, the way he looked against their team.
All year.
So Karl Anthony Towns had found his game, not against them. He was up and down. So, look, the Celtics, I'm sure, are the deeper team, the more experienced team. Them being the favorite makes perfect sense. They're not getting Porzingis back, whatever that means. I just think the Mavs have played the better basketball. And that's the thing. That's what people were saying going into the playoffs. The Mavs are playing really good basketball. And people like me were like, yeah, who gives a shit? They're going to lose to the Thunder. They're going to lose.
I'll tell you who gives a shit. Our good friend Sheldon G. He's got him at like 30-1, 25-1, 23-1. He kept sending it in on the Mavericks to win it all.
Good for him. They keep winning.
Well, and he did answer the magic question, to hedge or not to hedge.
Is he hedging now?
I think he hedged off a little bit there on Boston.
I'm with you about the city of Boston.
Yeah.
just in general, just feels like they deserve it.
Deserve the title or deserve to lose?
I was gonna say
Deserve the title.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that's your New England ties now with Vermont. I mean, you'd be hearing about it all summer long if they blow it. It's just amazing to me that maybe I'm dead wrong in reading this, and I probably am, but to summarily dismiss Dallas as having any chance in the series, which just people are conceding. I was reading a handicapper, I guess it was yesterday, that was talking about bet Jason Tatum to win the MVP, even laying -120 because the MVP, of course, is going to come off the winning team. The only guy that ever won it in the NBA from the losing side was Jerry West in 1969. So yeah, I mean, and the people that are making these decisions about MVPs aren't going to sit there and go, oh well, you know what, Kyrie Irving was sensational, even though they lost in 5, that he's going to win the MVP.
No, it's gonna
but
be
the assumption seems to be beyond universal and very strong that Boston's going to win this thing, and yet the odds aren't that far out there. I guess you have to lay 200 and change, I think, to win 100 on the Celtics if you like them in the series, and I think you're getting plus 185 on the Dallas Mavericks, which doesn't sound bad to me. You wouldn't be tempted into any of that, huh, Tony? Plus 185, Mavericks? No. Try to talk into some losing wagers, Tony, because I have been completely wrong about the entire NBA playoffs. I don't think I picked a single game.
You didn't pick one
correctly
game so far.
Oh, no, it's been horrendous.
I've been very wrong about everything.
Yeah. The hockey, we've had a little bit more luck with, but basketball, which we should be much stronger in, absolutely preposterously bad. I mean, ridiculous. All right, Tony, what do you got going this week? Are you going to be out there Gulfstream? It's pre-Belmont Day, Belmont at Saratoga coming up on Saturday, at a field, I believe, of 10.
Yeah,
going to go to the post.
Going to be a great race. At least I hope it's a great race.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, a very competitive bunch of 3-year-olds, if not overwhelmingly distinguished.
It'll be my last Friday before I go up. So.
Oh yeah, okay. So we'll make sure to double order that. What is that salad that you get? Caprese salad. Yeah. Okay. All right. Tell them to put extra tuna on there this time. All right. Well, we'll see you out there, Tony, Friday. We're looking forward to that. A farewell for. For Tony Segreto. Thanks for being with us. We didn't sell Tony on much there, did we? He thinks the gambling's not a problem. What? He has the Celtics and the Panthers winning.
I think he's picking the Panthers, but not writing off the Oilers.
We're convinced that the Panthers are going to win. We're not writing off the Oilers by any means because it is hockey. But I mean, 5 or 6 games? Doesn't that seem more appropriate to you than picking them to lose?
Look, last year I was totally leaning Panthers because of what they had gone through.
Yeah, we didn't know about the extent of the injuries. Yeah,
we didn't know what they were. If you did the math, you could see guys playing less. You could see guys gassed. That's not the case. Like they came on the last 2 games against
and super strong as the game progresses.
Yes,
the third period stats are overwhelmingly in their favor. Yeah,
huge. The fact they were able to win one of the overtime games. The fact they were able to win 2 in a row at home. The fact that they were winning games and it wasn't the first it was their 4th line. Lundell is some young kid that they
Forsling.
He's already there now. Forsling's doing things right now. Like all these other guys were getting work into. Apostle was getting back into the swing of things. Like I look, they're deep in a way that most teams aren't when it comes to hockey, and that's all goes to what Bill Zito has built. They've been built for winning. They haven't been built to just get there. They've been built to win a title. And the Edmonton Oilers, I don't know if that's exactly the case. I think it feels like there's still a little bit of way of putting the pieces around Connor McDavid to really be what McDavid is. But again, those guys can sneak up on you. Like I did not think Luka would be in a finals right now. You got him any help with Kyrie Irving, and Kyrie Irving, for the most part, is focused on basketball, and they're in the finals. So, like, a great player can do some interesting things, but thank goodness for the Panthers, they have a lot of great players. Like, they're not – Barkov, in a lot of people's estimation, is a better all-around player than McDavid because, again, he's a great scorer, and he's become one of the better offensive guys. Actually, right now, the best defensive offensive
you got the trophy for that. Whatever that is. The Sulky Award? What is it? A harness racing trophy?
I've never heard of it, but it's actually impressive. Remember, people forget what Barkov was. Barkov was the guy that in the playoffs would go away, and you wouldn't know where he is. And now
he was sort of a disappointment for the amount of hype that we associated with him. And the fact that every year you wanted to believe that this guy was a great player, but he's demonstrated that this year. And man, I mean, he set this guy Reinhardt up to be Pavel Bury, for God's sake.
Yep.
Because I think he assisted on like every one of Reinhardt's goals or somewhere in that
and you still
neighborhood.
have Kachuk, who is no slouch, and you have
Kachuk's a great leader for the team.
They're a loaded team with a coach who knows how to coach them, and they have a great front office. Look,
11-1 if you take them to sweep. What do you think?
The sweep's tough. It's hot.
Sweep's almost impossible, isn't it?
It's kind of tough. McDavid's going to have a game where he scores a couple goals.
Well, and they're schlepping back and forth. I mean,
and
it's tremendous.
The goddamn continent.
I would think the home ice in Edmonton would be a big edge, although they, throughout the playoffs, it really hasn't been a big advantage to have the home ice. But wow, to schlep from Florida to Edmonton, I guess both teams have to do it, and Edmonton has to come here. But at least they get to be here a few days before this first game gets underway. All right, so a lot of fun, a lot of good things to look forward to as the month of June. We're still playing hockey here in South Florida. Pretty incredible. And we've got, of course, this is great, too. I just want 2 final notes here, if you don't mind, Lubie, real quickly here, because I know we're in extended double overtime. But nonetheless, Louis Arise is hitting .340 now, leading the National League.
Of course.
Remember, he got off to like a horrible start here. I think he was under 200 with the Marlins, and he sort of got hot. Found the range a little bit. This was early April. He was like
he was getting better before they traded him. He was already starting to pick it up near 300.
He was ascending, But he's hitting .340 and has a good chance to lead both the American and then 2 times in a row the National League in batting average, which was a big point that Kim Eng had made, which I think she was absolutely right. If you're not going to be just inundated with power hitters in your lineup, then get some guys on base. That doesn't hurt anything. And Arise was all of that, and yet they dealt him before there was any real need to do so for a bunch of nondescript prospects who, how many times have we seen that work out? Sixto, by the way, again, on the injured list. But how do you deal a player like Arise when you still have him pretty much under control for like another year and a half? Even if you let him walk at that point, you're still in better shape.
Well, he's only going to get so much. He's not a power hitter in this day and age, so it's not even like teams are going to be flocking to sign him.
Pretty incredible.
Never worked. I know Bendix came from the Rays, and that's literally their MO is get rid of the guy before you have to get rid of him. So he's valuable, so you can get prospects and build. First of all, they've never won a title. Just to put that out there, they should have if Cash wasn't a fucking moron. But
the fact that they're as competitive as they are, though, is remarkable.
But that's the thing. They do at least win every year. I know this year it's
in the AL East too. I mean, it's not like they're in a slouch division.
Every year in the toughest division or the most highly financially involved division in maybe sports, honestly, the way that they spend money in that AL East. And they're the one team. So I get that's where he's coming from. The problem is he's coming here where we've seen this now fucking 6 times over the last 25 years. I don't want to see that. I'm sick of it. I was right when we talked to Glenn Geffner and Craig Mish, and they're like, well,
this time it's going to work. We got Jeter.
5 All-Stars. And they were getting rid of 5 fucking All-Stars.
Yeah.
Even though you're getting rid of 5 All-Stars, it's okay. They need to build the minors. Okay. And they built the pitching rotation and had no hitting. So it's like.
And what is their pitching rotation at this point?
Yeah, now it sucks.
Can you embrace, really? I mean, this Garrett has been good this year. A couple of times I've watched him.
Yeah, but it's...
But and Luzardo, who they acquired in the trade from the A's, is supposedly one of the primary guys on the trading block. So I mean, it's just it's hideous what that franchise has done. So you got to really applaud the fact that the Panthers are there, and that this Bill Zito quickly has established himself as one of the all-time great executives in South Florida sports history, which now has at least 30 years with 3 pro teams, and of course goes back to '66 with the Miami Dolphins. And then just a quick note here on social media, I couldn't believe this. I get a lot of tennis stuff because I'm a fan of various tennis players' pages or whatever. And there was a long thread of people just barking at Novak Djokovic, implying that he was a wimp for dropping out of the French Open. Now, the guy plays till 3 a.m. Prior to being in the quarterfinals, where he's taking on this guy, Cerundolo, who is just a filthy dirt baller. I mean, really is. Nope. I mean, pun absolutely intended. This guy can play. He's one of those Spanish guys, Latin guys that really thrives on the red clay. So he's going to be a dogfight for anybody he plays. And Djokovic coming out of a a match where he went 5 sets and played till 3 a.m. the prior day in Paris. Comes back out like in the afternoon and tears his meniscus in the middle of the third set. And then goes on and wins in 5 sets, a bloodbath against this guy. I mean, with 30-shot rallies and all kinds of crazy shit. And people are saying that he's an asshole because he dropped out of the tournament with a torn meniscus that he played on 3 sets to come back from 2-1 down against just a monster player under those circumstances.
And he's 37.
37 and been number 1 in the world. He finally lost that distinction to Yannick Sinner, who became number 1 now since he didn't make it to the finals, Djokovic, in this tournament. And in a very difficult and cockamamie ranking system to figure out. But nonetheless, you would have to say that Djokovic has not been quite himself this year. Seems to be showing signs. But to play on a torn meniscus and play at that level, I mean, you had to see this, Lubie. You would have never known the guy was hurt, except for the fact he kept rubbing his knee. And people are just harpooning him. I mean, and casting all kinds of aspersions his way, saying, "Hey, what kind of moron? What kind of asshole drops out of a Grand Slam when he's in the semifinals?" So I don't know. I don't know what people are thinking. What do they want from this guy? All right, we got to run. Thanks so much. We'll be at is it Luke's?
Luke's Seafood and Grill in Davie.
Great little spot, man. The people love this place. I mean, it qualifies, you would have to say, under the heading of, what would it not qualify under? I don't mean this in any kind of disparaging way, like hole in the wall type of place where you're not expecting that level of quality, Lubie? Would you agree that that's a fair statement?
Well, no, it's in the middle of some shopping center in
behind a car wash, for God's sake. That's how I remember the turn.
But it's extremely elevated and great quality, and I think they also do it. I don't know about a happy hour, but I know they do brunch, and I know they try to keep costs down for the clientele. And it's the kind of place we don't have a lot of those out west. So it's super happy they're there, and I'm glad we're going back.
I had a good experience last night, actually, a happy hour experience at this place that used to be a Pa de Janeiro's. It was a longtime staple of the Lauderdale by the Sea restaurant scene, and then it became like the Beef and Reef or something. Some Canadian guy bought the place. We used to hang out there, and then I hadn't been in since it changed hands and became Mickey's Downtown. Okay. But oddly, they had their first band there. Their feature is like these dueling pianos that they have, and people love it. They go in there, and there's music, all kinds of shit. They had a great sound system in there, but they've never had an actual band in there before. But they happened to bring a guy that I'm a huge fan of named Chris O'Leary there last night. All right, so we go in there, and we figure, all right, we got a table, so we'll order some stuff. And they had a happy hour deal going, which I don't know if it's every night or Sunday through Tuesday. There were 2 separate allusions to it. 40% off everything, drinks, nice, food, and they had some really good-looking stuff coming out of the kitchen there. We just had a couple of appetizers, but some of the main dishes really looked spectacular. And it couldn't have been better. A great experience, but wow, that happy hour deal was sensational.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we had like a ton of drinks and stuff to eat, and the check was $70. It was amazing.
Nice.
Yeah. So and the music was great, and then in the process, Lubie, this is good because it's not my thing, so I'm not in a position to invite people to come. But the band had their gig that they're doing down here canceled on Friday night, so they're playing at a friend of mine's house.
Oh, nice.
Who happened to be there? Yeah, so we got invited to that. They're going to be playing in this lady's backyard. Which
nice.
Yeah, and this guy's great. Chris O'Leary, what a voice, man. He really is phenomenal. So that's going to be a lot of fun. All right, we'll see you at Luke's. Lubie, great job as always, and we'll see everybody next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
Is Gurgles in for tomorrow? I think he is.
I think so.
Challenge? Yeah, okay. It is 9:18.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my show.